I'm Munah and I'm an actress, host, and content creator. She, her.
Hi everyone, my name is Tyen. I am a personal trainer and musician, and I'm also Munah's personal trainer. Okay, Munah.
Okay.
So, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I've actually been a huge MunahHirzi fangirl. Ever since I was in secondary school, like during recess time, right? We would all go to class and then on the projector we would stream like the MunahHirzi videos and all like the
How you all have access to the projector in school?
We just plug lah, you know, during recess that time. And I would watch and you guys are just so hilarious. It would literally make my day. And I'm sure I don't speak for myself, I speak for a lot of other people when I say this. So we are actually going to go a bit back and talk about the MHO MunahHirzi collective
a channel.
Channel. Yeah, MunahHirzi for you, it started, I want to say, more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. Actually, it started about like 15 years ago, which also shows my age.
Yeah. Although Munah hasn't aged a day since then.
Oh, thanks.
But I want to ask you, how would you say you are a different person as compared to then?
One of the biggest things that has changed about me is my groundedness. I've become a bit more, I want to say stable, but like stable in the mind, you know what I mean? Rather than when I was young, like, of course, you're excited about so many things, you want to try out so many things, and at the same time, you also like fail at so many things because you're just like, but that is a time for you to try everything, right? And that is a time for you to really learn. I guess 15 years later, I feel like I'm a bit more matured, hopefully, and a bit more grounded to take on like any challenges that life throws at me.
Yes, and I think that, you know, with that, you've kind of taken a lot of those lessons like over the years, and to be the person you are now, you're just so dynamic. You do so many things. You do like acting, you do hosting, you know, you do producing, and which is something that a lot of people don't even see that you do. You guys created the most funny, most dynamic content, really crazy, and I would think pretty controversial, if you'd say. Like a lot of the jokes maybe that you guys made back then, and the channel's not around now, but certain things that you said back then might maybe not fly so well now, would you say? And how did you think you dealt with the backlash at that point of time?
Yeah, so when we first started, YouTube was really like nothing, right? So we were entering this new sort of platform, not even thinking that anyone would watch it. So when we did start uploading videos just for fun, and we realized like, oh, there's an audience watching it, we thought, okay, maybe this could be something. But of course, with new territories and, you know, being young, you kind of just want to try everything. Or at least I didn't realize that we would be entering a space where people are allowed to judge you, people are allowed to have an opinion on what you put out. But there were a few things that we put out that were maybe a bit too controversial. The message didn't really come across. It was just like, you know? And the first time that we ever had any sort of backlash, it was scary. And we were like, oh, what did we do? What did we get ourselves into? And it was scary, but I was very lucky that I went through it with my best friend, and I know I had Hirzi and we had each other's back. But I think what's important is how we picked ourselves from there. We thought about it and we said, okay, you know what? We need to just relook at what is making people upset. I thought what we stood for was important because, you know, we stood for being different, we stood for embracing who you are, and sometimes people are upset about that. And we had to relook how we wanted to put across this message in a way that people can have conversations about it rather than just get upset about it.
I'm very sure that there are a lot of moments for you whereby you put out something and it was largely support and your people thought it was funny, but you received a lot of backlash and mean and hateful comments about it. So how did you deal with those mean and hateful comments when you didn't feel like you've done anything wrong? That must have been really challenging.
Yeah, well, when that happens, to me there's two sides to criticism, right? There's constructive, where you take it and you learn something from it, and then there's just noise. That's just what life is, right? It's just about, it's a process, it's a growth. You need to keep learning. Differentiating that makes a huge difference on how I handle I guess, negative comments or negative feedback.
So for example, in the Munah days, like in the MunahHirzi days, what do you think is one big learning lesson that you took from all these comments that allowed you to kind of evolve?
MunahHirziOfficial ran for about 10 years, right? And it was midway through when we had a meet and greet session at the first ever YouTube Fan Fest in Singapore. We had a bit of time and we decided to sit down with our followers at that time. And we wanted to have like just a casual chat and we thought it would be funny. But people started to open up to us about real issues that they were facing, and we've never met. We were just people they saw on screen. And the fact that they felt comfortable to be vulnerable, to be so honest with us, that gave our content from then on so much meaning, because like I said, we were the outsiders and we were the people who were different. But then there are so many people who also felt that way and felt like they needed a community. And I felt like we created that with our channel unknowingly. And when we found that family, we thought, okay, this is why we're doing what we do. And so a lot of our content was skewed to embracing that, embracing who you are,
Was there ever a time during your journey that you wanted to quit and close down the channel?
So many times. We never really intended for it to be like such a long-term thing. We always thought like, okay, I think by next year we will stop. But then there was always something that kept us going. There was, and I remember this one particular year, we were quite sure that we were going to be done with the channel and just focus on our own things. But we received a lot of backlash from the messaging that we put out in our videos, which is...
Was there a specific one?
Not a specific one, but I think in general, like as we were growing, like we were known to be a bit more, I want to say controversial, but it's not controversial. It's just to talk about issues that were important, that people didn't talk about yet.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's controversial. I just think it's not talked about yet, but we thought it was important too. So we continued on for another few years. And it was nice. Like I think when it was time to close, we felt like we've collaborated with so many people. We've learned so much. We've had our followers be part of this journey, be part of the videos. I think MunahHirziOfficial did a lot, and it was time for us to close that chapter, but then take our individual crafts further to perpetuate, what MunahHirziOfficial was. And then we decided to do it on our own, like continue, like Hirzi is doing so well on his own, perpetuating that same messaging that MHO was, and and I'm doing the same. So and then like also our followers from MunahHirziOfficial, they also took it and they are now flying on their own. And then I see some of them like now they're content creators and they're doing exactly what they're meant to do, and they're so open and they're so brave, even braver than me. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, this is really good. This is good. I'm so proud of this, and I feel like, oh my God, this was from this community of like kids who just wanted to make videos.
That's amazing. You guys were really
nice.
the OG when it came to like content creating. So for you, Munah, after MHO ended, I think I met you around the time that MHO ended, I want to say. This was when you were like... it was just around that time. And I still remember, we were both in a Click Network show.
Were you interning?
I was interning. So I was starting out with Click Network. I had started a fitness show with them called No Sweat, and at the same time I was doing an internship for my university. And then Munah was in you were in the show Girl Band called Girl Band, and I was the intern. And then we became friends through that show. And then at the point of time, you were looking for a personal trainer to help you with your health. I feel that was the year that was really pivotal for you. I just saw your before and after. I still remember piecing the videos together, seeing you change from someone who doesn't really work out to lifting weights like 2 times a week. I think that's when your career really like pivoted, because that was also a point where you were kind of shifting from the more like video making YouTube space to being an actor and a host and a producer, working with theatre companies and with more like traditional media, television. But the focus really shifted for you. So how was that transition for you personally? What was the challenge, and how did you feel, moving into this new territory and almost new career?
Honestly, when I started this, or when I chose to start this career, it was really scary. I mean, YouTube was YouTube, and it was still something that we were exploring. But at the same time, yeah, I was trying out, going for auditions, trying to be a performer as well. I didn't think I would go into it because before everything had happened, I had like a job, and I thought I would be there forever.
Yeah.
Then I guess like acting, hosting came knocking on my door, and it was always a passion. I didn't think it was gonna be something I could pursue. The opportunity was there and I loved it. I thought, okay, why not try? I was like, okay, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna pursue my passion for realsies, and I'm gonna take whatever fear or obstacles that come my way, because this is what I feel I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
But I think because I was always scared that I wasn't doing enough, I was, with the hustle mentality at that point of time. Like you kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I kept pushing myself to the point where I was burning out.
Yes.
And I didn't even realize it until it was too late. Yeah, I think at that point of time when I was burning out, I struggled to find help because I'm very guarded. But yeah, I think at that point of time, my sister, brother, and my ex, my boyfriend at that time, they saw that I was not doing well, and so they kind of pushed me to speak to someone. So yeah, I think I had to slowly find what works and really pick myself up from it. And one of them was fitness. I found that, and I think like all came in hand lah. Bad things gang. They always come together.
Yeah. Munah and I have this theory that the bad things, when it rained, it pours.
Yes.
We have this thing called the bad things gang. So you just imagine all the worst things that could happen. It's almost like bad things never really come in isolated cases. So it's like the bad things gang is like, oh man. So really like when it rained, it pours. We call it bad things gang.
But the good things also come in gangs.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Okay, let's summarize. The bad things gang at that point of time was I was struggling with finding my footing in the media industry. I was burning out. I couldn't find an outlet to talk about what I was going through. And I had a health scare.
Yes.
And so I outside of me, stop myself and like, Munah, what are you doing? Because I think the more I struggled internally, the less efficient and productive I became, right? And then there was no progress because I was just stuck in this hole. And when you feel stuck, you feel like so stiff and cold and just like, how do I move from here? So that was me trying to move forward, but I cannot. I'm in this position, help me, somebody. Stuck.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, no, something has to change.
Yeah.
And I think when I started to think that myself, that's when I felt motivated to, okay, I need to do something.
Yes.
And I feel like with this sort of struggle, the motivation always comes from you, because I can tell you, if you're going through something, I can tell you no babe, you have to do this.
Exactly.
But the motivation has to come from you. You want to be better. Actually, it was also from training with you that I felt like I was physically better, but also I was mentally better, because something about exercising, getting your day going in the morning, it helped me a lot.
Yes.
So tell me about your journey with your mental health. Uno reverse. Because you were a big inspiration to why I wanted to be better, and to why I wanted to also find outlets that help me stabilize my mind.
So I've been skinny pretty much all of my teens and 20s, but very unhealthily, and I was always very unfit, but not just unfit physically. When I was in my teens, I did have clinical depression and anxiety. I was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety. So I did not really know where to turn to. It was really as simple as just admit her to IMH, which happened. And I was admitted to the clinic there. I felt like I could not speak to anyone about it. So I just kind of relied on medication
Yeah.
to get me through a big part of my teens. So I had a friend who used to go to the gym, and he said like, hey, you should start working out, start lifting weights. So at that point in time, I was like this 18, 19-year-old, like at the gym, just like lifting the 2 kg dumbbells. Oh, it was so heavy. I hate exercise, I hate running. I just don't want to do anything remotely active. So to have that transition for me to suddenly now I was into like fitness training,
working out.
and working out. Yeah, I felt so good, I felt so strong, and I was building a body that muscles and finding strength that I never knew I had. And because I have that strength, I think it built a lot of confidence for me. And with that confidence, it made me a lot stronger mentally. So if there is something that I can do, like if I can wake up and I can go to the gym, if I can lift some weights and feel strong and good about myself, then I think that is just a huge confidence booster in making you feel better about yourself. It's really quite crazy to see how I've kind of evolved from having those mental health struggles when I was a teenager into my late teens to kind of like turning my life around and finding fitness as a way to get myself stronger, not just physically but mentally, and also to essentially build a whole career out of it. For you, fitness is such an important element in your life because we all want to look good. But I think with fitness, it was also for you just to. It's for health. It was for your health and it was for your mental health.
I think I wanted to get into it because I wanted to feel stronger. I wanted to build stamina because I could feel myself just deteriorating physically. And I guess it also didn't help that, I was going through all these new challenges in my life and I just wanted some sort of stability. Like you said, like I wanted something that I could take charge of.
Yeah.
And I started with fitness and I think it just naturally made me feel confident, or like I believed with training with you, I felt like, oh, maybe I am stronger than I thought I was. And now with some sort of hold on that, like I feel like, okay, with anything that's thrown at me, I just have back to like the first question, like I'm just a bit more grounded in how I handle things. I mean, it's I think like with mental health, like it's a process, right? It's an up and down thing. Like you can never find the right answer to solve something.
Yes.
But I think you can always find the right tools to help certain things. It was only very recently where I revisited the idea of speaking to someone. So I tried therapy, I tried a mindfulness course, and I found like with mindfulness, I found a lot of tools that I could make use of to really like control my mind a little bit. Because I think for me, like my mind goes everywhere, especially when there's so many things happening, right?
Yeah.
With so many things happening, like I get anxious and then again, like I get closed up and then like I'm not moving forward. Like it's just a whole cycle. But what I learned from the mindfulness course is to really like give your mind some sort of structure. Like I found tools that really helped me. And a lot of the tools also like resonated with what I do for work, like breathing exercises. Like I do it like right before a show, for example. So I found that, it really worked well and it kind of fit into my life seamlessly. And those are the kind of practices that I do in order to just, get a hold of myself for a bit. I panic.
What's another tool that you think you learned from that mindfulness course besides the breathing exercises?
One of the things I learned was mindful eating. So
Right.
really like taking your time to like
Yes.
taste the food, smell the food, hear the food. Have you heard it? You try today.
Why talk to me, right?
Yeah, it was
Talk to you. I feel like the broccoli will be like, "Hey, good for you." Very good. Very good, very good. She learned.
Anyway, so the other thing is mindful showering. So it's really, I found what helps me is a morning routine. So I don't rush into my day.
Yep.
I really just take time with my day. So I wake up earlier, I like really feel the shower and feel the coffee. So it's like a mindful morning routine.
Okay, so on that note about mental health, I think how I personally think I cope with kind of mental health is that I always look at when you feel a bit off, I always talk about my 4 pillars of mental health.
Yes.
So first is fitness, second is sleep, third is nutrition, and fourth is water. In fact, all of these 4 things affect your hormones so much, and your hormones are essentially your emotions, and that is your mental, emotional makeup. I think, whenever I'm feeling a bit off, I always come back to my 4 pillars of mental health, and I ask myself it's like a checklist. So if something's off, then there's where I know I've identified the issue and I need to solve it. With that, I feel so much more in control of my day.
Yeah, like you know exactly what to look out for.
Yes.
One of the things I picked up is journaling. So I never thought much about it, but for me, if I say what I'm going through, it means I'm accepting it. But I found that, with a lot of things, you need to acknowledge it, right? There's no running away from it. That's not going to help the situation. So I found like a middle ground with writing what I'm going through or writing my thoughts down, because it's not exactly me saying it out, it's just me acknowledging it on paper for now, without the fear of being judged or without the fear of feeling like I'm weak or vulnerable, because I think that's what hinders me from actually speaking up.
I think that's so important. I love that you touched about journaling. I think that essentially just changes your perspective. Just penning down what you're grateful for, even on a good day, even on a bad day. Just always just taking those moments. It goes back to mindfulness.
Yeah.
Being mindful of the good things that happen in your life. Like you said, it kind of provides that balance for you. What does a bad mental health day look like for you?
Alamak. I think a bad mental health day for me looks like any other day on the outside, but inside, I feel like I'm like trying to find my grip, or there's many me's in my brain that's just like like they're just like trying to hold on. I try to find any moment I can, and it could be just like me sitting in the car and just like breathe. I find like breathing really shifts something in me.
Yeah.
See, now I say breathe, you breathe, right?
Yes,
When I say breathe, everyone will always breathe, yeah. But like taking like just a few deep breaths just helps to like recenter it. Like it's kind of like this, but then like you recenter yourself, and then like slowly it will become like this again, but you just keep recentering yourself until you get home and you can kind of rest your mind.
What kind of what was the turning point for you?
Like what triggers me to suddenly have a bad day?
Yeah. What would be a trigger?
Oh man, so many things. I think many things, but
what are the main ones?
I think in general, when things go beyond my control, things I suddenly have no grasp of, and it just goes not the way I planned.
Okay. Like specific example, when was the last bad mental health day you had?
Oh my god.
What was the last bad mental health day you had?
Actually it was
and describe
probably, okay, describe the day. I think actually it was just a few days back. It started out okay. It started out quite smoothly, but midway through, there were a lot of things being thrown my way that I felt overwhelmed by, because, I suddenly couldn't prioritize where my focus should be. I felt like everything needed my focus at that point of time. And so when I couldn't prioritize properly, or I didn't know which way to go, I felt stuck. Yeah, but what I did was I wrote. So that helped me that day. Yeah, for me to just like, don't rush, it's okay. Time is on your side. Just prioritize.
Yes.
Write down and visually see what you need to prioritize.
So that's a really important tool for you to kind of gain control. I think it's gaining control.
Yeah.
I think it's when you feel the most unstable, is when you feel like you lack the control. I think, same for me, and that's also why I'm such a big proponent for fitness and for exercise, because that is a way in which you are in control of your health. That's why, for my personal training clients, like everyone says that after their workouts, they feel so in control, they feel more confident, they feel like, okay, if anything today, I have done something for myself, I've taken control of my health, and I feel in control. I can do a lot more. I shared with you before that I did a bit of theatre growing up as well. I went to high school, and actually one of my biggest dreams when I was younger, I think I told you this before, was actually to be an actor and to work in stage. So I find it really amazing for people who work in the theatre industry or acting industry to kind of be so in control of their emotions. So for you, how would you say, do you say you're very good at controlling your emotions in your day-to-day?
Yes.
Yes. Would you say that is a challenge for you as an actor?
You know, when I was starting out, when I was going through my own things, I felt like it was my only form of outlet then, because it was a place where I felt safe to be vulnerable, because I'm playing a character, or I'm trying to understand a human story. And for some reason, a lot of times, every production I do, or every character I play had some sort of relation to what I was going through in life. So it was kind of like the universe telling me, like, you need to deal with it.
Yes.
Fine, you want to work, deal with it at work. But I found that really helped me, because I get to manage my emotions. I get to process my thoughts, how I feel about, you know, a certain situation through art. And I mean, and if I can share also, there was a production that I did that was about dementia and identity and, you know, forgetting. And that was when my mom was first diagnosed with dementia. And I felt like that was one of the biggest struggles for me to accept. Oh, now I'm gonna cry. Yeah, it was hard for me to accept, but I think being forced into that production, as much as I wasn't even the character, I was playing the doctor, but I had to like see the struggles of the character going through it. And like there were times in rehearsal where I thought like, I can't do this, that I would just walk out, because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it, I want to run away from it. But I think that production was so special to me. Oh, thank you. Yeah. But I think that production was so special to me because it helped me understand like what things. I think that production was so special to me because I think it helped me understand like what I needed to be for my mom, and how I needed to manage my own emotions of you know, how I deal with the situation. And that was like, I don't know how many years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. But that was like such a big moment for me, because I was like, wow, like I'm so happy that, you know, like I have this as an outlet to really understand, you know, how I can move forward. So yeah.
It must have been really difficult for you dealing with things that were just so real.
Yeah. I was like, why is this the show that I'm doing?
It's just too real. It's still too real. The universe is like, you gotta confront this right now.
I felt like I learned a lot from that, and I think like I can only hope that it did help me kind of move on with it, to support her, to support my mom like a lot better. So, that's me.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for asking me.
Thanks for sharing that. Must have been a very special.
Yeah.
But Munah, what would you say has been your biggest takeaway from me and our friendship?
Oh, I think the biggest takeaway for me from our friendship is to be honest and to be open and to really acknowledge feelings and struggles. I think seeing you and how you deal with a lot of the challenges you face with so much confidence and, you know, with so much stability, like you are fully aware of what you're going through and you are fully aware of what to do. And that inspired me a lot, because I'm like, I want to get to that level of, you know, being okay with going through hardships. Like, it's okay, like it's fine. Like, I don't have to stress about, you know, going through difficult moments, because that's just part of life. And I think you kind of pushed me in that direction to just be more accepting of everything that comes my way.
What is just something you'd like to say to maybe a follower or viewer right now who's watching this?
I just want to share this. I think like what helps me is to see how far you've come, because the fact that you're still here, you're still standing, shows you that you are always stronger than you think you are. You're still here, you did it so many times before. So just hold on to that and know that, you know, you've made it this far. You can go on further. And there's always help. Yeah.
I've done it. You can do it. We can do it.
And then they're not gonna use it.
They're
They're like, no, it doesn't work.